Hey guys, Matthew here. In this video I'm going to talk about this kind of render section here in a little bit of detail, just so you know how to use it to perhaps get a slightly better kind of quality image. But firstly, I want to talk about this difference between CPU and GPU rendering. So computers always have a CPU and traditionally have a GPU. A GPU is a kind of part of a computer that deals with a whole bunch of small calculations very, very well. It does them in parallel. So it's used in computer games, it's used in Photoshop, it's used in most graphical software we use. But the way that it works is it likes to actually do a whole bunch of shortcuts fundamentally. And CPU rendering allows far more intense singular calculations to occur. So GPU rendering is something that's been popping up quite recently. Now I would move over to the GPU rendering, but on this particular machine, it's not currently working. But if I clicked onto that and chose interactive, I'd be able to move the camera around and get fairly quick feedback about how my image is changing as I make changes in the scene. But luckily there's this interactive option for the CPU option, so I'm just going to click that there. And you'll notice that a whole bunch of stuff disappears. And I'm just going to move the camera and press this render with V-Ray interactive option, which is the teapot with the hand clicking it. And it'll say preparing renderer. And then once that's prepared, which may take a little while because I'm using the CPU and not the GPU, it'll start to render the image. But now when I move the camera around, it'll automatically update for me. I'll have to wait, to get feedback, as it'll kind of go and make the image better and better and better and better as we sit here and wait. But that's fundamentally the value of that. So you can sit there, put on interactive, move the camera around, get a fairly good understanding of the kind of lighting qualities of the scene that you're putting together, or the kind of how the camera is working, and then say, yeah, that's where I want to take the render, shoot. So I'm just going to quickly turn that off. I'm going to stop the rendering process. There we go. You might have a bit of a lag here before this becomes available again. Which is taking a little bit longer than I expected. There we go. So now it says finished here. So I can now turn off interactive and I get all these options back. Now, if I choose progressive and then I press render, so I'm going to actually go back to my, my set view of my render, and I'm going to press render there. Taking a little while to recognize that it's starting. But here we go. And it's building the light cache. And we're back. And you'll notice that we pretty much get a very similar result. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to compare the two. And they're, for the most part, other than some noise within the image, are fairly identical. Now, the difference between progressive and non-progressive rendering is fundamentally this box here. So on progressive rendering, I can, I'm going to get into this in a later video, I can click here and I can actually set a time limit for how long the render is going to take. If I don't have this progressive option on, I get a very different set of options about how to actually render the image out. So that's fundamentally different. So if you are working to a deadline, you can put on progressive and say, look, I don't kind of know the quality of the image I want to get out, but I know I want to start from a very, very low quality image and start trying to get the best quality image I can get in the time frame I have available. Or you can turn it off and say, look, I don't care how long it's going to take, I just want to get a good image out, and then we can begin to understand what some of these sliders might do. So pretty simply, might be rendering quite a large image. I can put this up, I can put a number in here, I can say, you know what, I am only going to have an hour, and then I'm going to do the rest in Photoshop. I can put in 60 minutes, press play, whatever comes out, comes out. So there are two different ways to move from that. Then the last slider in this section here is this quality slider, which we'll get into in a bit, but effectively it goes from draft, i.e., I'm doing some pretty basic tests, all the way up to very high. So if you were doing this at on a computer that's not your own, you probably wouldn't be able to get away with this very high option. So that's pretty much it for this kind of little renderer section. And in the next video, I'm going to go through what the denoiser does. And yep, I'll see you in the next video.